Something I notice immediately about Thrawn is how his character is clearly inspired by Sun Tzu, or at least his teachings at any rate. According to tradition, Sun Tzu was a Chinese philosopher general who lived over 2,500 years ago and authored the very influential military manual known as The Art of War. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu famously quotes what was apparently a known saying in his day: "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." We see that Thrawn has taken to heart this philosophy of knowing one's enemy and takes it to some logical conclusions.
To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not simply their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, art.
Thrawn's interest in art goes back to his original character in Timothy Zahn's novels, but in Rebels, it has special significance given that the series has invested so much time in the artwork of the Star Wars galaxy. Imperial propaganda, rebel graffiti, advertisements, space wars, and what essentially relates to war paint. And of course, the creators are aware of this.
Thrawn's interest in art is something that's been part of his characterization since Legends. How is that going to play into the stories you're telling here in Rebels?
I think one of the happy coincidences was that early on in Season 1, we knew that Sabine was going to be an artist.
But I'm getting off track. Back to the Art of War. Thrawn represents a different kind of Imperial threat, because he understands that there's a larger picture and a bigger rebellion than our heroes alone. This mentality can be observed in both small-scale and large-scale scenarios. When Thrawn first heads off and interrogates Hera, he calls for guards and suddenly Ezra pops out of the woodwork and takes charge. When I first watched this scene, I was thinking, nobody's gonna find this a little suspicious? And I can easily put that sort of oversight past the stereotypical short-sighted Imperial snob officer, but surely not Thrawn, and I wasn't disappointed. Thrawn knew immediately that he was dealing with a rebel in disguise. Surely he knew that several scout troopers were reported missing or dead, so he knew that the rebels had access to this particular uniform, and he might even know his own troops. Of course, I'm just theorizing, and the situation alone is suspicious enough to tip Thrawn off. But I don't want to put anything past such a thorough tactician. After all, as Sun Tzu says, you'll succeed if you know the enemy and know yourself. Thrawn strikes me as a nitpicker or a rivet counter. Nothing happens without his knowing it. What's great about this episode is that Thrawn wins. He lets them escape. We've seen the rebels escape time and again, always one step ahead of the Empire, but this is one time where the rebels escape and have won nothing. Sun Tzu says, if you know yourself but not the enemy, every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat.
One of the key things about Thrawn in our series is that for him, a victory is getting a piece of information they didn't have at the start. And that's a different victory scenario than our heroes are used to.
The rebels have escaped learning nothing of their new enemy, besides the fact that he is likely their better. But Thrawn has learned a great deal about the rebels. For instance, he knows that the rebels have something of a family dynamic, and are willing to go to great, possibly irrational extremes to ensure the safety of their own. Hera exhibits some scorched earth mentality by demolishing her house to cover an escape and to keep it out of the hands of the Empire. If Hera is willing to destroy her childhood home for her cause, would she be willing to do the same with her current home, the Ghost? Thrawn knows all of this now, and by letting the rebels go, he can better control the timing of the rebels' ultimate defeat. Destroying one ship now might not be as big a victory as something that Thrawn has planned in the future. After all, the quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Do you have thoughts on Thrawn? Is there cool stuff that I missed? Are you upset that all the original stuff about Thrawn isn't canon anymore? Let me know what you feel. I'm having fun making these videos, and every month I'm gaining traction on Patreon, which helps me commit more time and energy to making regular content. If you want to support my work, check me out on Patreon, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.